Ooh, I guess we're approaching the new year now when this goes up.
Yeah, close to. A little bit after, should be after Christmas, I'm sure.
You would hope with our planning, but you never know with us.
This just goes up in February. Nah, we would never leave you without a Sekhie Reacts for that long.
So, today we're covering another Christian.
Who would have thunk that, around the Christmas season, we cover Christians.
Well, in this case, we just got lucky that this year's Santa was also a Christian. It ended up being a nice little Christian month.
Ay, Christos.
We need to do our part to make sure we get into the Holy Land after we die. We certainly don't deserve it otherwise.
Deus vult, Deus vult, Deus vult, Deus vult, Deus vult. Let's crusade. So today's servant is Amakusa Shirou Tokisada, or Amakusa Shirou Tokisada.
Yes.
Which I would say that when I was looking him up, it gave two different Christian names for him, like anglicized names. Mm-hmm. Francisco and Geronimo. So I don't know if
this is not Geronimo from Fate.
No. I know this isn't Geronimo. That we talked about who that Geronimo is. But I'm just which one? Is it like Francisco Geronimo? Is it like one or the other? I don't know, man. I'm not deep into that Christian lore dumping, so.
Well, this one's actually a pretty important event in Japanese history.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm definitely into the actual, event. Just not the, deep lore behind which Christian name this man has.
Also being fair, he's not exactly that well known in the Christian circles outside of Japan.
No.
He's the most well-known Japanese Christian at this point. But also that's mostly from Japanese history, not necessarily from on the Christian side.
Yeah. And he died young, very very
surprisingly young.
Age 17, Jesus Christ.
What he died a martyr by the age of 17. What did you do?
You shut the fuck up. What did you do by age 17? Yeah, that's right, bitch.
I had an appendectomy.
And I had a double sinus infection with double ear infections and water in my lungs. That's not an accomplishment. Yeah. Plus, I gave you that appendectomy. So that's mine to claim. I gave someone an appendectomy by the age of 18.
No, you didn't give me the appendectomy.
I created the soup that made it necessary for you to have the appendectomy.
You gave me a soup that may or may not have caused appendicitis,
It was delicious.
It was a good soup. I love good food that fights back.
The snack that bites back.
Yeah, look, I've never had a food take me out of commission for weeks.
Those chicken nuggets.
Being clear, I don't actually think it was the soup, but
no, this is an ongoing argument.
Yes.
Every time he brings it up, he blames the soup, and every time I tell him it wasn't the soup because the rest of us were fine.
It's this great recipe she has where it tastes perfectly normal on the way down, but then once it hits just past the throat, that's when the hot spicy burning starts. Not in the mouth, in the chest. So after you've eaten it, shortly as it's going down, you suddenly feel like you're having a heart attack.
I would like to make the clarification, the soup is not typically made like this. As I was adding kimchi hot sauce into the pot, I was bumped into by a cat and I accidentally just dropped the whole bottle in.
My reaction to trying some of it was oh, this isn't that bad. It's pretty good, actually. Oh my god!
But then again, we did have another friend who chugged the entire rest of it
and he
happily.
had the exact same reaction.
But he thought it was delicious.
Yeah, it was delicious.
Listen, all I'm saying is maybe your food should cause a little inner immolation.
I say that too. Is that not my catchphrase when it comes to describing what foods I like? That the best foods are the ones that fight back?
Anyways, with that being said, we're going to get into the story of this man. So this man was born to Catholic parents in 1621. And one of his parents was a former retainer of the Konishi clan. At this point, Christianity was pretty firmly entrenched in some parts of Japan, namely the Portuguese Jesuit preachers who came in through the ports that were open to Portuguese and Dutch traders in the 15th and 16th centuries. Maybe a little earlier, but generally the 15th and 16th centuries.
Uh-oh, it's the Catholicers. Dun, dun, dun.
It really is. And so we've kind of, in previous videos, we discussed as to why there were certain ports that were open to exclusively the Portuguese or the Dutch. And that's because largely at this point we are into the Tokugawa period at this point. And the Tokugawa maintained that only the Dutch and Portuguese were allowed to trade out of specific ports in Japan and teach things to the Japanese from these ports. This was how they maintained knowledge and contact with like the West and the outside world, but they didn't allow all nations to come in and stake land and stake claim, because they were kind of looking at that happening in India and China and everywhere else around them and going, no, we don't want that. Which honestly was probably a very smart move on their part, just not the way that they went about it in the long run as part of their governmental processes. So this is happening near Nagasaki, right? Because Nagasaki was one of the trade ports.
I don't know.
So this is happening near Nagasaki, I believe.
I have the Shimabara Rebellion opened if you want to click into it.
Okay.
That might give you a fallback here on the map.
Saga Prefecture. I would really like a map of Japan with...
There it is.
I would really... Okay, you know what we're going to do?
Cross-compare maps.
We're gonna... Alright. There we go. That's a good... Oh, it would have been good if... Okay. So, Saga... Okay, Nagasaki's right there. So it's right nearby Nagasaki. So the Shimabara Amakusa Rebellion, right? And this is kind of the main thematic historical event that is happening around the life of Amakusa Shirou and his Catholic rebellion and that sort of thing. So in the Shimabara domain of the Tokugawa shogunate, there was an uprising from 1637 to 1638, very short-lived, only about 5 months long. So Matsukura Katsuie, we've talked about Katsuies before. He was the daimyo at the time of the Shimabara, and he had some really unpopular policies set by his father, Shigemasa Matsukura, that raised really, really high taxes in the Shimabara domain and violently prohibited Christianity. And then those taxes were used to like build the Shimabara castle, which was kind of like a slap in the face to the peasants at the time. So an alliance of Catholic peasants and local ronin, led by Amakusa Shirou, were rebelled against the Tokugawa shogunate in December of 1637 over these policies. And I mean, technically, they're not so much rebelling against the Tokugawa shogunate directly, they're more rebelling against the Shimabara leadership, but that was sanctioned by the Tokugawa at the time, so it became a rebellion against Tokugawa, right? And so the Tokugawa shogunate had to respond. They sent a force of over 125,000 troops. These were supported by Dutch allies. So it was kind of the Portuguese versus the Dutch. And I believe that this rebellion is the reason why from this point on, only the Dutch were allowed. And they were confined specifically to specific treaty ports. And they could not enter Japan beyond that. And it was also, in the Tokugawa period, very illegal to leave Japan if you were Japanese. That was a no-no. If you left Japan, you were dead to them. You did not get to come back. You did not get to take two. It did not matter if you left on accident or on purpose. You're gone. You're done. You do not come back. Because the Tokugawa could not have you coming back with new ideas and fancy new economic policies.
Terrifying.
That would be horrendous. Horrific. How could you? A bit of a rant about Tokugawa political policy, but you know.
Well, everybody knows that Japan went through quite the isolationist phase. That still carries on a bit to this day.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, this huge amount of troops besieged the castle at Hara, the Hara castle, which was where they took a stronghold, the rebellious forces. And then, after a while of them kind of holding out, they were betrayed by Yamada Imosaku, who was just a young peasant soldier. You know, man was just like, hey, Tokugawa, guess what? They don't really have a whole lot of supplies left. You should come get them now. The Tokugawa overcame the defenses of the castles. That's the other thing, is that the Shimabara rebellion, they were more prepared to defend the castle than they were to take offensive action. They didn't have the manpower and the supplies and like the supply lines supporting them to take serious offensive action, so it was mostly a defensive battle against the forces of the shogunate. And when the shogunate broke through, of the approximately 40,000 peasants involved in this rebellion, every single one of them, except for the traitor, was put to death. All 40,000 of them, approximately. Also, all the Portuguese traders were expelled from Japan immediately. Katsuie was investigated for misruling and eventually beheaded in Edo, becoming the only daimyo to ever be beheaded during the Edo period. It was given to a different family, and the national seclusion and Christian persecutions were tightened like a lot more and did not loosen up again until the 1850s.
In a lot of ways, this is absolutely an atrocity here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this is awful. I mean, Amakusa Shirou's head was put on a stake outside of the prefecture and left there as a warning. And like, we've talked about this before, but like in a lot of traditional Asian countries, desecration of body is a really big thing. And often if someone is sort of symbolically beheaded or something like that and displayed, eventually they are, like, within a relatively short period of time, they're typically given a proper burial.
This happened in the Shinsengumi. You'll remember some of this from the Shinsengumi video.
Yeah, because we talked about that here. So largely in history, this is portrayed as a Christian rebellion with violent suppression, but
the Christian was just a major benefactor.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, this was a peasant rebellion, rebelling against taxes and persecution, in which the Christians were people being persecuted, so they joined up with the peasants, who were already rebelling against the high raised taxes that were being enforced upon them. It is the largest civil conflict in Japan during the Edo period, and it's one of only a few serious pieces of conflict during this 200-year period in Japanese history.
Following this, there's a pretty large time of peace after this.
Yeah, and so the thing is, Amakusa, as he was growing up, by the time he was age 15, 16, right, when the rebellion would have started, like close to 17 when he died, he was known as like the messenger of God, right? He was a charismatic young man, and even the Portuguese called him sort of the voice of God, the messenger of God. So he had already attained this sort of status for dealing with, members of his community and his faith and his own belief in God, which is quite interesting. I think, honestly, that the next really major rebellions in the Tokugawa area were from the Cho and Satsuma near the end of the
Satsuma Alliance, right?
Yep, the Cho-Sat Alliance, yeah, which we talked about in a different video, I believe.
Shinsengumi.
That's the one. Yeah, Boshin War, yeah. So that's the next, truly major rebellion in Japanese history.
Which was basically the end of that period in Japanese history.
Yeah, moves us into the Meiji Restoration, and then on to the era after Meiji, and I forget the name of it. I mean, largely, he was known as a very charismatic leader. He spoke very well. Even though there was no logistical support, he and his rebels did hold out for over 4 months in a castle against over 100,000 Tokugawa soldiers. And apparently he would put up motivational posters all over the castle saying things like, "Now those who would accompany me in being besieged in this castle will be my friends unto the next world," and shit like that.
He was a natural leader, and he would have gone far if he had survived a lot longer.
He would have gone very, very far if he had survived. Just a little bit younger. A little bit longer. Yeah. I mean, when you think like what a 17-year-old was able to do in this case, that's pretty fucking impressive. I mean, the man successfully took over an entire castle and held off, 100,000 Tokugawa troops. Yeah.
And only lost because there was a traitor in their midst.
Yep. So yeah. Also, then the shogunate largely promoted the adoption of Buddhism in this entire southern area of Japan, which is why there's a ton of like Buddhist architecture in southern Japan. He was like, let's just replace that. So Christianity went underground.
Yeah.
It never really went away, but
Christianity is kind of like
a cockroach.
Okay, but in this case, they are actually the victims here. This isn't like some Spanish Inquisition bullshit.
Okay, I'll be nicer to the Christians.
We have to give them points sometimes.
I know. You need to fucking chill.
That cat has looped that window and curtain like 3 times over the course of this video.
I know. I don't know what's up with her.
So, I'm assuming you can take a wild guess as to what the class of the servant's going to be.
Ruler?
Yeah.
Can I close Shimabara?
Yeah, you can close it.
So
meet Amakusa Shirou Tokisada.
Oh, now I know why in the other video you were like, we'll get to that.
If you want to open up the FGO designs, he has a lot more designs because he is from an anime first, or from an anime light novel first, but these are his FGO stuff.
So, okay, that's...
There's a reason.
I like this one.
So I can actually get into the reason behind his earlier designs, but let's click through.
So my question is maybe this is a stupid question to ask. Ooh, a costume. Is he like an ancestor of Emiya or something?
No.
Is there a connection between them?
It's hilarious. Actually, no. Not at all. There's he looks like Emiya kind of by coincidence. He has the name Shirou, which they ended up playing into the story a little bit, and they might have played because when he's introduced in story, he's introduced as Shirou Kotomine, which
like Kirei Kotomine.
Yes, okay. Yes. So people originally thought, wait a minute, is this Shirou but raised by Kirei? Mm-hmm. That's not the case, but that part of that fake out was because the character was designed and looked like Emiya a little bit, and shares a name with Shirou. Okay. And Nasu was like, hey. You know what this reminds me of?
Question. I'm just reading this a little bit here. Do we know who Assassin of Red, Caster of... Have we done any of those of Reds?
Caster of Red... No, you've not met...
Okay.
Actually, no, Caster of Red is Shakespeare.
Okay, Assassin of Red?
Assassin of Red is... Assassin... We've not met Assassin of Red.
Archer of Red?
So Assassin of Red is Semiramis, and Archer of Red is Chiron. We'll meet them eventually.
Okay, Lancer of Red?
Lancer Karna.
Oh, okay, so we've met him. Rider of Red?
Rider of Red is Achilles.
Okay, and Caster of Black?
Caster of Black is a Vikebron, who we have not met.
Okay, so I know a couple of them.
Yeah.
All right.
These are all like their Apocrypha names here.
So he's not a servant at first?
So, Amakusa Shirou Tokisada was like I explained earlier. He was introduced as having an unstated connection to Kirei Kotomine and his father Rise.
Okay.
We would later find out that he was actually summoned as a ruler in a variation on the Third Holy Grail War. He was summoned by the Einsburns as, despite the summoning of rulers in the Grail War being against the rules, there is no timeline where the Einsburns don't break the rules. The Grail would be stolen by Nazis towards the end of the war, and he would be left alive past the Grail War, where he'd be taken in by Rise and treated as a second son.
Oh. So he's Kirei's brother?
Adoptive brother in this specific timeline.
Yeah.
He would then set his sights on the Holy Grail, and he looks back on his life with regret that despite all the suffering, nothing was really changed by it all. He would come to hate how humans would repeat atrocities over and over again, learning nothing. So his goal for the Grail over time became to eliminate all evil and selfishness from people's hearts. Though he is the villain of the story, because effectively this would result in humanity losing all sense of individualism along with it.
Yeah.
He would be summoned again in FGO, because obviously he loses. He's the fucking bad guy. Where he is chilled out just a little bit. He still has all his memories, but is mostly the friendly, kind of dorky, nice guy that is willing to take a fall to help others. He notably acts as kind of a guardian figure to the Chaldea's Children's Club.
Aww.
And takes on the name Santa Island Mask whenever he wants to help out Jalter Lily with her Santa stuff.
Aww.
On one notable occasion, he decided he wanted to roleplay as an Arsène Lupin-style gentleman thief.
I saw
which was certainly a face for him.
Honestly,
it's a sick outfit.
Yeah, also, Arsène Lupin, what a great detective to model yourself off.
He was a thief.
What a great thief to model yourself off of. I'm an idiot.
Actually, he went up against non-copyrighted Sherlock Holmes, Herlock Sholmes.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Herlock Sholmes.
We will later see...
oh, wow.
We will see her a little bit another time, but he has a sort of will they, won't they thing going on with semi-Ramis. So that's something we'll touch on another time in a future video.
I'm just looking at art that's definitely not going to be in the Wikia.
What's your what are you feeling on the design here?
I definitely like him as like the servant better. I don't like him once he like cuts his hair and dresses like a normal person.
That's because that was his when he was
the
being
style
a priest in the modern day.
Yeah,
it's the same clothes as Kire if you look.
Yeah, I don't like that as much, but I do like his like normal,
like the actual like how he was as a servant.
Yeah. I'm just checking the stuff that I might not get to see in the other one, you know? Because I know some of the... Okay, that should all be in the... Oh, what the Okay. No. I don't even know who that is. No. Alright, Sekhie. We talked about Sekhie before. I see. So there was a chance that he would come. After all, he was the one who attained the Holy Grail. No wonder. For now, let's not interfere. That would be better for both of us, don't you think? Okay, Jean. Oh, never mind. It's nothing. The Holy Maiden and I have different views of the world, but it is certain she wishes for peace as well. Semiramis. What connection do I have to the oldest poisoner, you ask? Unfortunately, that is a secret. An empress of the Middle East who... How can it be that such a fraud of a hero finds himself connected to such a figure? Impossibly, surely. And yet, it is a curious thing that we call fate. But not capitalized fate.
Lowercase fate.
Lowercase fate. Oh my, is this the greatest writer of Britain? Have you gotten better from the habit of writing tragedies? Oh my, everyone's here. Long time no see. It seems we are allies this time as well. That's assuring. Mordred. The Knight of Rebellion. You are here as well? Oh no, oh no. This time I'm just a mere servant. Let us both let go of our past grudges, let bygone be bygone, and cooperate with each other. I'm telling you, it's quite vexing that you look at me like you're seeing something suspicious.
If it's not clear, he does have his memories from Fate Apocrypha.
Ah, yeah. That's Fionn Macumael. He normally plays the fool, but he actually has great talents. That's why I just can't deal with him. Yes, you would know it very well. Irisfiel. Ah, that's Einsburn's homunculus. No, there isn't anything particular about her. It's just when I look at her, I realize how much lacking my capacity is. Oh my, is that you, Jean Lily? It's good that you seem to be working hard at being Santa Claus as always. Please take care of the wishes, no matter whose wish it is. Oh, Hozuin-san. Well now, if Miyamoto Musashi were here, we'd have a bit of a reunion. I wouldn't say what kind, though.
Miyamoto Musashi was, in part, involved in putting down the Shimabara Rebellion.
Oh, I am very aware. Carmilla. There appears to be a competing phantom thief around here, and she has her own calling card, a dog, and a car. That is quite extravagant, but I won't be one-upped.
Summer.
Yeah, my favorite Carmilla. Dante's. Okay.
So this is actually how he was like. So he doesn't have his like grayish hair. Normally he would have black hair, but this is the same one as Apocrypha. So it's like the age has got him.
Do I know Castor?
Yeah, you know Castor at Shakespeare.
Okay. Sorry, I meant the other one.
Oh no, you don't know the other person there.
Okay. Oh, I see Achilles and Shakespeare. Yeah.
Stop.
What? We love a cocky, confident in his own abilities. All right. Abilities. Ooh.
Little gif.
Yeah, interesting.
So his best combat trait is his class. He is pretty middling as a servant, neither spectacular at magic nor combat, but he isn't actually qualified to be a ruler either. Technically, he isn't a saint, so in normal circumstances, he wouldn't be able to be summoned as one. But again, the Einsburns cheated. But what he is smart. And that is what carries him to victory. Due to his time spent training as a church executor as Shirou Kodamine, he's also adept at using and enhancing their common weapons of choice, the Black Keys. Those are powerful concealable blades that can be thrown and are effective against the undead. He adds his own spells to them, which make them stronger than usual. And he's also able to wield a sword effectively, to at least enough to put up a fight against his opponents. As a member of the church, fighting spirits is easier for him, which does include heroic spirits, so he is equipped well enough to be able to hold his own, despite his otherwise weaker status as a servant.
Okay. Alright, I see magic resistance, true name discernment, God's resolution. Alright, personal skills. Revelation. Alright. Prayer for the long journey. Charisma, baptism rite, Grail of burning heaven. And then we're left with Noble Phantasm. He has 2, left hand, Xanadu Matrix, and right hand, Evil Eater.
So we actually have a third one that's not quite listed there, but it's a little bit weird. So his Noble Phantasms are his 2 arms. They are his Noble Phantasms because it's said that they inspired hope in people. Together they allow for the use of most magecraft without having to spend time learning it. And though his magecraft does pale in comparison to most casters. The left hand allows him to strengthen his body and is why he's able to stick around after the Holy Grail War. And the right hand gives him slight precognitive abilities. He does have one thing he can do with them, which isn't listed there, but he does this in FGO and in Fate Apocrypha. It's a technique called the Twin Arm Big Crunch.
Yeah.
With this technique, he can use both arms to do something that effectively allows him to create a mini black hole, but I believe he has to chop off his arms for it.
Interesting.
Even if it might be temporary, though.
Interesting.
Looking at the artist here.
Yeah. Alright, so he did Sakuramato in Fate Extra, CCC Extra Garden. Costume design for Archer, Lancer, and Manaka Saijo in Fate Prototype, and designed Enki. He's character designer for Astolfo in Apocrypha Online. Character illustrator for William Shakespeare, Jack the Ripper, Astolfo, Shirou Tokisada, Siegfried, Kriemhild, Mordred, Spartacus, Semiramis, Atalanta Alter, Avisa Braun, Achilles, Chiron, and Sieg in Fate Grand Order. So I've seen some of these.
Yeah, and I will say the prototype characters, Archer and Lancer, that's Gilgamesh and Ku. Proto-Ku.
Thank you. I almost for a second I was confusing it with Extra CCC, and I was like, you mean...
Sorry, did I say extra have prototype?
I was like, you mean Gil?
Extra CCC Gil is actually classless.
That doesn't matter. I was referring more to the... Alright. So
I have some NPs here.
I'm going to close out of this if you don't mind.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Cool. Move on to the NPs. Heaven's Feel activate. Yeah, because he was in a CE for Jean, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I was like, is that Emiya? And you were like, we'll see.
Yes.
And then somebody made it in the comments. They were like, oh, wait, I can't say his name. I'm glad this isn't gender bent, by the way. I have been referring to Amakusa Shirou as a she in my head for the last 3 weeks for some reason.
You're tired.
Yeah, I for some reason, I looked at the name and I looked at our other servants for this month and like the kind of Christian theming, and I was like, oh, it's definitely going to be another woman. Bye-bye. Jesus. I'm just going to black hole you.
So, you said pull up both videos, and I was like chatting in my head. The animations probably won't be different.
I am coming for your museum's holy grail.
Yeah.
It belongs in a museum.
No, it doesn't in this case. He's stealing it out of a museum.
So he's literally... So, you remember I watched the show The Librarians, based on the movie trilogy The Librarian? So in The Librarians, one of the characters, he's an Australian, and he's a thief. And our kind of think back introduction to him is him stealing like some sort of like crown jewels or some shit out of a museum. I do love myself a gentleman thief. This is like barely second tier to his third ascension, like as a servant clothing. I don't like the Kotomine clothing, but these two, God tier.
Look, at his heart, he is still a 17-year-old.
I know, and I love it.
So I think in Apocrypha he had to cut off his arms. Here he does not. It looks like it. That's just not something he has to do in FGO.
Yeah. I love him. Alright.
We have arcade.
Yay! I love a good arcade. I'm a little disappointed he manifests in that outfit. I know it's the first ascension, but still. Dang, that sucks. Just casually get fucking wrecked. Alright, you've got something else to show me?
Yep, there's not a real big design spoiler, so go ahead and click in. So this is, you'll see, it's just him with red eyes. This is Amakusa Shirou Tokisada as an Avenger.
Not only does he have red eyes and white hair, he also has pointy teeth, and you know what that means.
Careful.
I said nothing. I said nothing.
So this is a non-playable alternate form of Amakusa from a timeline where he survives the Shimabara Rebellion and comes to loathe everyone around him. His world would be cold as a pruned timeline, so the lost belt, leaving him existentially homeless.
Aww.
He'd be picked up by a man claiming to be Abe no Seme, the Onmyoji that defeated Tomomo no Mae.
Yeah.
This was not Abe no Seme, by the way.
Oh.
And the two would work together to fulfill the wish of being I'm tripping over my words here.
You also didn't mention that he was called by Satan.
No, that's actually what I was about to bring up. So, they were trying to call forth the power of Satan. At least that's what they said. The man was neither Abe no Seme, nor was he being truthful when he was saying the one he was working for was Satan. So, no, Satan was not actually being called forth. It was somebody else. That man is that man that was manipulating him is an absolute fucking liar and is very good at manipulating people. But we'll cover him another time. For now, I'll just call him Caster of Limbo.
Okay.
Later, we would come to find out that it was a plot by the Onmyoji to become a beast, and he was trying to create his own like full lost belt out of another timeline. But that's just for another time.
Okay.
So, abilities-wise, he is a world hopper that can freely jump between multiple timelines due to not having one. Again, that's the walking singularity thing. Unlike his ruler counterpart, he is extremely powerful and can keep up combat-wise with most servants, if not outright surpass them. His noble phantasm, he does have the twin-arm Big Crunch still, but his other noble phantasm is Shimabara Hell, which is a reality marble that allows him to recreate the horrific destruction the Japanese government caused when putting down the rebellion.
Jesus.
Inside the air is unbreathable and will slowly attack the willpower of those until they become monsters.
Ugh.
I do have a picture there if you want. It's not that important, but
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
so yeah, that is
And there's no...
no. He is non-playable, and his animations, for all
He's
intents and
not
purposes,
playable.
are just Amakusa Shirou Tokisada.
Okay. So, that's a short servant thus far.
Yeah,
However,
just funny because he's gotten more screen time than Martha in anime. Yet there's less to play around with here.
I love this. That's ridiculous. That's so funny.
Just T-posed to assert dominance.
It's more like he's like... Because T-posing is like that, hands down. This is hands up. It's almost like a come and get it. You know?
Mm-hmm. His swords.
Mm-hmm. Okay, down here to extra art. Oh. I like seeing the full image of these. Yeah. Oh yeah, totally easy to tell. Should I open the ones that are literally titled Detective Edmund
No.
and Edmund Dantes? Okay, let me close a couple then. Cause like 3 of those.
Those ones we'll come back to.
Yeah. Okay. Amakusa Shirou's rally flag, reading Lavado Seao Sactissimo Sacramento. Don't giggle. It's the word for sacrament. From that point in battle, defeat was certain. What is vital is to show your will to fight. We are with God, death will be peaceful. But still I could not simply die. I kept thinking I needed to save even a single life. The victory of today is tied to the despair of tomorrow. I understand that. I understand, but hear me, our flag. If they had ever committed a sin, it would be believing in me, the sin of following my lead. I gladly dedicate my life to you. So please, I wish to know how to save them. But if you cannot save them, and if at the end of this battle you need their lives, I will abandon saving people and vow to save humanity. Both good and evil, weak and strong, I will show you and save all of them. This is the story of a boy who gave up on being a hero, a story of how he wished to do so even as he understood the egotism of it.
So the story does kind of position Amakusa Shirou as a foil and opposite to Jeanne d'Arc, right down to the fact that Jeanne d'Arc was originally not a canonized saint and then later was canonized after her death, but Amakusa Shirou was never canonized as a saint.
That makes sense. A moment of silence with...
Jack and Nursery Rhyme.
Yep. And I know that one's Jack because it's green eyes.
That's Menorah.
Oh, it is. Even as his knees buckle and his destination flickers and wavers in fantasy, the value of the time he was able to spend with the young girls is enough to make him start walking again. A short break for a man who will never stop walking. Oh. Church-styled handmade cookies. Chocolate crunch cookies.
That looks like shit you'd be given at like a Sunday school.
Valentine's return gift. Haha, of course it's a unique treat. The exquisite combination of crushed almonds and chocolates can go up against any mass-produced sweets. Homemade cookies even Amakusa Shirou recommends. Would you care for one?
Those don't look homemade.
Right. A prayer for the sword, a wish for life.
That's a tie-in for Apocrypha. I don't
Yeah.
know if they might. Yeah.
No, we're not gonna. The moment of peace. This is a dream, an illusion. Amid all the efforts he's making for his ambition, there might have been a brief moment of rest, and when he wakes up, the battle resumes. This is melancholy. The one who desires salvation. Somehow that looks slightly menacing.
I mean, he is a villain.
Hate was endlessly bubbling up in my heart. I felt hate for this world, as it's a place where those who should receive salvation instead walk a path of doom, while those who had no hope for salvation enjoyed their pitiful lives. But when I close my eyes, I am able to see, even those whom I loathe are ordinary humans and insignificant beings. If this is true, then I shall weep, and I shall love them all that is good, evil, those who should receive my affection, and those who should receive my hatred. I shall seal away my hate so that I might save humans from this twisted and corrupt world, even if that means my own heart becomes corrupted. Heroic spirit travel. Ooh.
心地よい暑さです。信仰はこのような場所でこそ熱くなりましょう。
The heat here is very pleasant. Our faith should grow stronger in a place like this. He is standing above a caldera.
Yep.
I wonder which one. So I know that in this spirit journal, right, every single one of these locations that they've put these characters on is a real life place, because you can see that it's very obviously that either he's been pasted directly over a real photo or a photo with very little retouching, right, with the art kind of put in over it. And so sometimes I kind of wish I knew. Oh, there are locations on them. I did not know that. We have never seen that before.
Probably always been there. We're just blind.
Aww. So Aso caldera in Kumamoto. So I was right. It is a caldera. Yeah. The heat would make sense with it being a caldera.
So yeah, that is Amakusa Shirou Tokisada.
Yeah. I'm a big fan.
I figured you would be, given especially
You
this.
know I like the whole, kind of gentleman thief, that sort of thing.
And a Christian who died too young to really be blamed for anything that's going on with Christianity.
Yes. I like this. It's an interesting round out to our servants for this month, because we did pick all very Christian oriented servants, and I myself am not Christian. Neither are you.
No.
I believe.
Well, not really.
Not in practice.
Yeah, not in practice.
And sure, we come from a country that does have a lot of Christians in it, but not like Catholic or Orthodox, So it's something we don't really have to deal with Christianity if we don't want to, largely, other than hearing about stuff happening in the news or hearing about stuff happening at holidays. So it's interesting to look into Christian characters.
I think in America we often have this. I don't want to say it's a problem, because it is a legitimate thing, but we often talk about Christianity more as a political. If we're not Christian, we talk as Christianity as more of a political thing and not as an actual culture and religion that exists.
Because it's a political force in the U.S. and if you're not a practicing Christian involved in the culture, then the way it's most applicable to you is the fact that the Christian communities often have a lot of lobbying power, especially in large swaths of the center and south.
But I do think it is important that we don't forget that at the end of the day, this is still a cultural group of people with their own stories that have legitimate meanings to them.
Yeah.
Just as the same as any other one, separate. You do have to separate the modern religions as political powers from their cultural. Their cultural significance.
Yeah. So it's interesting looking into the characters like that. I think this was a good set of servants. I think I was relatively interested in every single one of them, and I like a lot of the designs. We didn't have any misses for me this month, which sometimes we do. Sometimes we have servants that I just a servant in the month I just don't like,
Mm-hmm. But you seem pretty positive on at least one form of every servant.
Month. Yeah. 2 for him, 2 for the last one, and I liked most of Jean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it for 2023.
Yeah, can you believe it? It feels like we just started the year.
It really does, doesn't it? It feels like just a couple weeks ago was like the updates video.
Feels like we only just did Tomo.
The Smasher Pass. It really was just a few months ago that we did Roundtable, and I don't want that feeling anything.
Let's be fair, that was like our biggest Reacts project of the month.
Yeah. Of the year.
Of the year. Sorry, yeah.
The year. But yeah, I think we've had a pretty interesting split of servants across this year. And obviously we've really, this year, I think we'd finally settled into our style. We haven't made any major changes in the Reacts format.
Any changes we've made is because Fates introduced new things.
Yeah, we haven't had to, because we've been doing CEs and everything since the beginning of the year with the newer servants.
I guess we've been covering relationships more.
Yeah. But it's not really like...
Like this year, we've generally stuck to the format this year.
It works well. Mm-hmm. Don't break what's not broken.
So, I am going to give another very vague hint because A, I don't want to spoil the audience, and B, I don't want to spoil you. So I don't have much of a way to give this hint non-spoilery. So I'm just going to say that the same as we did last year with Tomo being sort of a conglomeration of multiple different like stories and legends, we're going to be doing another character or set of characters like that are... It's going to be a very Type Moon forward video. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, you had a much more hidden hint than me. I had something in mind, but it would have been a lot more... Hello, you know who's going to be here.
Yeah. At this point, like, we're going into the new year. I want to be a little bit vague here. We have some big hitters coming in January, I think.
Oh, yeah, we do. Look forward to that.
We don't really have an outro here.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to introduce one at the end of this year?
That feels like something to do in our first video in January, not our last video in December.
Shit, we have like 2 days to figure this out.
So we'll talk to you guys later, and try harder, everyone.